Hello, and welcome to the Lessons Unlocked podcast. I'm your host, Colleen McCracken. I've been looking for ways to increase music education accessibility, and I think this podcast can make a difference. The Lessons Unlocked podcast uses a virtual platform to engage with student musicians through masterclass-style instruction. Students may submit a recording of their playing for in-depth feedback to be shared with all listeners. This way, students who submit can get feedback, and any other student with access to the podcast can learn from the masterclass. There's also a Q&A section, so please submit any questions that come up for you. Our name to know this week is Sir James Galway. A native of Northern Ireland, Galway began his flute studies in Belfast. At the age of 16, he was awarded a scholarship to the Royal College of Music, followed by studies at the Guildhall School of Music and Paris Conservatoire. At the age of 21, he embarked on his orchestral career in London's major opera and symphonic orchestras. He took up the coveted position of solo flutist with the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra in 1969, before becoming one of the very first flutists to establish an international solo career in 1975. He has a vast discography with 98 CDs to his name, having enjoyed recording contracts with Sony Classics and Deutsche Grammophon, and most recently the RTE label, featuring his recording of Linen and Lace by Bill Whelan. A strong supporter of the arts and charitable causes, Galway devotes much of his free time to furthering music education. The Galway Flute Academy, Sir James and Lady Galway's educational platform, enables them to nurture and mentor flutists of all levels through their various programs. Galway continues commissioning new works for the flute, publishing articles, flute studies, and books, including a new publishing collaboration with Southern Music. He has played for such dignitaries as Queen Elizabeth II, Pope John Paul II, President William J. Clinton, President George W. Bush, President George H. W. Bush, King Charles, the Empress of Japan, the Queen of Norway, Queen Sophia of Spain, Princess Diana, and many others. He has shared the stage with an amazing array of entertainers, including Stevie Wonder, John Denver, and Elton John. He performed with Pink Floyd in their memorable concert at the Berlin Wall, was part of the Nobel Peace Concert in Norway, and performed at the G7 summit hosted by Queen Elizabeth II in Buckingham Palace in 1991. Galway lives with his wife in Switzerland and currently plays on a platinum Galway Nagahara flute especially commissioned for him. This week's piece of the week is Sergei Prokofiev's Flute Sonata. This flute sonata in D major stands as one of the 20th century's most significant contributions to the flute repertoire. Written during World War II while Prokofiev was living in the Soviet Union, the work balances lyricism and virtuosity in a neoclassical style that reflects the composer's characteristic blend of wit, elegance, and rhythmic vitality. Originally conceived for flute and piano, the sonata was later transcribed for violin by Prokofiev himself at the request of a famous violinist who attended the premiere of the sonata. The flute version, however, retains a distinct sense of clarity and buoyancy, showcasing the instrument's singing tone and agility. Across its four movements, Prokofiev combines graceful melodies with sharp contrasts in mood and texture, crafting a work that is both expressive and very technically demanding. An enduring favorite among flutists and a testament to the composer's ingenuity. Sir James Galway has an excellent recording of this sonata that I will remind you to listen to at the end of the episode. This week's organization highlight is the New Jersey Flute Society. Founded in 2009, the New Jersey Flute Society offers many opportunities for its members to perform and learn from great pedagogues through masterclasses, recitals, workshops, competitions, and the annual Flute Fair. The New Jersey Flute Society is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting excellence in flute performance and pedagogy. Its primary focus is to provide an encouraging environment for students, amateurs, and professionals alike.
I'm really excited. We have a performer from South Carolina. If you guys remember, I'm located in North Carolina, so basically my neighbor. Their name is Mitchell, and Mitchell will be playing Syrinx by Claude Debussy. Let's go ahead and listen. Wow. That was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Upon first listen, I'm at a loss for what to say to you other than holy cow. It is so clear that you've put in a ton of time and thought into this. Your musical intentions are coming across beautifully. I think you are honoring what the composer intended with the piece while at the same time giving your own spin to it and really giving your own performance for us. So it's really just, Mitchell, this is really just incredible. So we're going to go through and break it down. This may just be me complimenting stuff as we go. Maybe I'll come up with something that could be helpful. I don't know. This was such a solid performance. I don't want to nitpick if there's nothing to nitpick, If it's good, it's good. And we all just get to sit and enjoy it. So, all right, let's break it down. Okay, I think you could hold that a little bit longer. This is really so beautiful. So all of my comments are very minimal, tiny, picky things that I think could just bring your performance of this piece to the next level. If I remember correctly, you were submitting this for a competition. As long as everyone has their head screwed on straight, I think things are going to go well for you, but this is seriously just in such good shape. So what you're doing with the first notes of the piece, that B flat and the A flat, I like how you're starting it and then you're sneaking in the vibrato partway through. I think that really adds to the atmosphere. So great work on that. But yeah, I think you can hold that final B flat with the fermata just a little bit longer, and really draw the audience in, really give us such a long, luscious decrescendo that we're like leaning in and we're following you as you go. Oh my gosh, the support that you're demonstrating from that high E flat down to the B flat, that transition is absolutely stunning. You did such a good job with that. Holy cow, you've got great control over this instrument. There's one thing, I think when you started to decrescendo on the C flat, and at least to my ear, that's what it sounded like. I wouldn't do that. I think the decrescendo is clearly marked just on the D flat. So by starting the decrescendo on the C flat, you're giving us, you're kind of giving away what's about to happen. Like, okay, we're going to back off. But I think if you really follow exactly where that crescendo is placed, it's going to give just a little bit more. Like the decrescendo doesn't start until the D. So we're pushing forward, and then we're holding at our larger dynamic, whether you feel like that's mezzo forte, whatever, it's not noted. I think giving us a little bit more time with the power that you're presenting on that C flat would be useful, because that's theoretically the loudest part of the movement so far. So I would really delve into that and really feed it to us. And then you can show us your lovely tapers and decrescendos coming into the next measure. Again, all of this is super picky stuff. This is just stuff to consider. If you disagree with anything or if your teacher disagrees, that's totally fine. Music is subjective. So anyway, now that I got that little disclaimer out of the way, let's keep going. Lovely. I'd be curious to know what fingering you are using for that E natural that precedes the D flat and the un peu mouvementé measure. I think if I remember correctly, when I did this, I did not have my pinky down for the first 3 notes of that 16th note figure, so that when I got to the D flat, I didn't even have to think about like pinky changing difficulties, because it sounds like maybe that happened, or you know yourself better, but that's my thought, is to just leave the pinky up for the first 3 notes of that 16th figure, just to make it a little bit more clean. All right, let's keep going. Okay, again, you've really put in the work to give us the detail, and I'm hearing the detail come through, and this is just, I want to keep praising you because this is seriously so good. I know your low C didn't speak exactly how you probably wanted it to, which happens to me, happens to everybody. The low register of the flute takes so much time. It's not something where like someone can give you a quick fix and then all of a sudden you have a great low register. It takes several years to really be able to attack the low register immediately. So my only comment there is take that into account and think from the listener's perspective. Rather than us barely even getting to hear the note, maybe that was rubato. Maybe that was an opportunity to wait until the note speaks and then start feeling the pulse. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Just allowing the note time to speak, especially because we're in a rubato measure. No one's going to count you off for that. And if the note needs an extra split second to speak anyway, then let's give it to that and do that musically. All right, going to keep going. Can we have a moment for the vibrato, for the choices with the vibrato, to start with no vibrato, to sneak it in, to make it grow, to make it present? It's so clear to me that you have put in the work on vibrato and tone color on this piece. And this is just, you've created such a good example for everybody listening. Okay, we're going to keep going. Nice. Okay. I have a couple thoughts. That trill didn't sound right to me. I'm trying to figure out which trill fingering you're using. Are you doing a B flat to an E flat and then going to the D flat and then using, I think it's both trill keys to trill up to the E flat? It's just different trills work for different people on different flutes. So that trill doesn't sound quite right to me. So I would explore some other trill fingerings, or even you could finger the E flat and then just trill the fingers on your left hand. That's a good trick. I think that would give us a better sense of the pitch. I think that's what we're losing a little bit, is the sense of the pitch. Your second trill was absolutely lovely. So I know that you definitely can do this, but I think that fingering maybe doesn't work for you or your flute, or and different things work for different people. So that's okay. And so there's a choice to be made between the B flat with the fermata, and then we have this breath mark, and then we have another B flat on a mezzo forte. Some people do a decrescendo and kind of fade away and have a moment of pause. I think it would be more interesting if you gave us a contrast, because we've had a lot of that already. So I hope you would consider continuing the power through. And yes, you are taking a breath, but keeping the line going, almost as if there's no breath mark at all. Something like a ba-dum, ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da, you know? Okay, just pretend like I'm a good singer. I think that could be more interesting, because this feels like, to me, this kind of feels like the peak of the movement. So I would keep the energy. If you disagree, I respect that, and that is okay. This is just an idea, just in case you like it. Anyway, continuing, off we go. And what you've been doing is with the vibrato, I think really fits the character of the earlier parts of this piece where you're starting with no vibrato, sneaking it in, and then making it more present. I don't know how much I love it in this section. I feel that because we're more powerful, we're more confident in these, it's only like 3 measures of this. In these 3 bars, I think start the vibrato immediately on 3rd line up from the bottom, beat 3 of the first measure, that B flat. I say start the vibrato immediately. Give us a nice, powerful moment, because we're supposed to be pretty loud. So I don't think we need the subtlety of vibrato in this moment. I think we need the power of it. So another thing to experiment with. Absolutely lovely. It's really just such a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you so much for sending this in. Thank you for sharing this with all of us. This is an excellent performance of Claude Debussy's Syrinx. Syrinx or Syrinx? People say it different ways. I don't know. I'm not Debussy. People also say that different ways. Alas, here we are. Mitchell from South Carolina. This has been incredible. Thank you so much. If anyone listening is considering sending in a recording, please do it. Please do it. Don't ever feel like you're not good enough to send in a recording. If anything, you might be so good that, like Mitchell, I'm just giving you compliments left and right and maybe a couple of new ideas. Please send in your playing. No one is not good enough. That's not a concept I believe in. So please send in your playing. I want to hear you. And I want to keep making podcast episodes that we all can enjoy. So thank you, Mitchell. This is so good. Everyone, wherever you are, as long as you're not driving, please give a round of applause to Mitchell from South Carolina. Yay!
So to wrap up this week's episode, I wanted to answer we have some listener questions. So let's get into it. The first one is, how do you stay motivated to practice on days when you don't feel like it? That is such a good question. The hardest part of practicing, in my opinion, is opening the case. It's just starting. So there are a few ways to approach this. You could lie to yourself and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to get my flute out. I'm only going to play a scale. That's all I can really muster myself to want to do right now. Which, even if you did only play a scale, hey, that's better than nothing. Once your flute is out and you're playing it, you're going to want to keep going. Because remember, the flute's fun. So that's one way you can just get yourself to get started. Another way that I think is really fun is to incorporate pop music. So maybe do your long tones to your favorite popular artist's new album. That can just add a little bit more mental engagement and a little more motivation, because it's something new and something fun rather than playing the same long tones starting on a B natural descending. You know what I mean? So do some of that. Also, like, find a silly TikTok trend and hop on that. That's a great way to get motivated. Anything that can help you get the flute out of the case is going to help you have a productive practice session, because the hurdle is just starting. Once your flute's out, you're like, oh, might as well put in all my work and really work on my repertoire that I need to improve on. But yeah, the hardest part is getting started. So find ways to make it fun and then do the fun thing and then move on to, not to say the serious stuff isn't fun, but the low pressure, low stakes stuff that feels kind of silly. Start with that and then move into the more serious thing. Maybe ensemble music, solo music, competition music, audition music, things like that. How do you handle mistakes during a performance? Oof. So those happen to everybody all the time. And the best way to handle it is to accept that it happened. we knew it was going to happen. No one has ever had a perfect performance. That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist in live music. That's not why we enjoy live music. We want the risks and the possibilities that live music can offer. And that includes making a mistake. There are a few approaches to this. I remember a teacher once said that, you know, if you make a mistake, you were meant to make that mistake, and it was meant to be that way. And, you know, that was like kind of pre-planned by the universe or whatever you believe in. So that's something that might bring you a little bit of peace with making a mistake. The main thing to do is to not overthink it and not start spiraling. So whatever you can do to help yourself find peace and acceptance with, yes, okay, I just made a mistake. That doesn't mean that I'm going to keep making mistakes. That doesn't mean that this whole thing was for nothing. That just means that, oh, that was a little different than I intended. All right, on we go. So you can give yourself that little pep talk in your head, or you can have a plan of something else to think about when mistakes happen. What did I think about when I'm thinking of this time where I played a concerto from memory and I had the worst memory slips and I was just struggling so hard. And I was trying to stop thinking because I knew my fingers knew the music. I knew that my body could play the music, but my mind was getting in the way. So I had to give my mind something else to think about. So I was like, you know what? Think about a waterfall. Think about that pretty waterfall on the hike you went on the other day. Focus on that. Don't think about the fingers because the fingers know what they're doing. So that's another skill is being able to control what your mind is thinking about. And it's really just by feeding it something new. You can't just tell it not to think about XYZ. You can't say, okay, brain, don't think about how I just made a mistake. No. Okay, brain, let's think about how perfect my cat is. And then boom, you're picturing your cat. And before you know it, you've mentally recovered from the mistake and you're ready to kind of tune back into your playing in a productive way. How do you deal with imposter syndrome? I'm giggling to myself as I read that question because I would love for someone to answer that question for me. Imposter syndrome is crazy. I experience it all the time in several different facets of my life. And I don't know that there's going to be a way to make it go away. You know, I can keep getting music degrees, but am I ever going to feel like enough from that? Probably not. At what point am I going to feel like I've made it? At what point am I going to feel like I've deserve to be where I am? And that's not something that can be answered, really. It's something that I think performers should explore in therapy because imposter syndrome's never going to go away, but it can be managed. So I think that we need to approach it with that mindset rather than, okay, how do I make this go away? It's like, all right, how do I accept that I have imposter syndrome and manage it and move forward with my life and not let it get in my way? Because frankly, I don't know that I'll ever feel like I'm a really good flutist and I've made it in the world. I don't know that that's ever going to happen to me. I think I'm always going to have the feeling of, wait, I'm doing this? Is this, wait, they wanted me? Now, the obvious solution is to develop a massive ego. But if you have imposter syndrome, it's probably going to be difficult for you to develop a massive ego. One option, fake it till you make it. Gaslight yourself, lie to yourself. My professor has me doing affirmations every day. So every day I look in the mirror and I tell myself that like I deserve the success that I've had and I'm worthy of where I am and that type of thing. And I think it's helping. But again, yeah, it's definitely a management approach rather than a like getting rid of it approach. Whoever asked this, I hope that you can feel seen in that everyone has it. It's not just you. Everybody has it. So please don't feel like you're alone in that. Okay, thank you so much for sending in questions. I really appreciate it. I like being able to talk about stuff with you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of the Lessons Unlocked podcast. Huge thanks to our performer of the day, Mitchell from South Carolina, and to all of you for continuing to listen. As you head out into your week, I encourage you to listen to Prokofiev's Flute Sonata. Again, Sir James Galway has a wonderful recording available on most streaming services and also YouTube. And of course, thank you to all the music educators who are working hard to make music accessible and meaningful for their students. I'll be back soon with more. Until then, happy practicing and bye for now.